The study was from Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis, and it used goal setting and feedback to increase weekly running distance. Our behavior change report used goal setting and feedback to increase weekly walking distance. The participants were Diana Clifford, Jocelyn Finn, Randall Lavender, Ashley Mowry, and Justin Tuttle.
All right, thanks. I'm going to start with the literature review. Individuals have become more aware of increased activity equaling increased lifespans, which in turn has increased interventions that target exercise, with research supporting behavioral methods and theories to effectively assist individuals in changing their behavior to improve their health. Revealing the most effective strategies in increasing physical activities can help guide practitioners in treating individuals who suffer from obesity or other chronic diseases. A review of the literature revealed that interventions that include goal setting and feedback could effectively increase physical activity in individuals, even when data was evaluated and discussed weekly or even over the internet. A study by Donaldson and Norman tested the effectiveness of combining a simple goal setting, self-monitoring, and feedback intervention to help 5 obese adults expend more calories while exercising, using a multiple baseline across participants, with some members undergoing a brief reversal. Dependent measures were a heart rate monitor, which researchers deemed viable in reporting caloric expenditures. Data was collected and verified in weekly meetings, and weight and BMI was reported multiple times throughout the study. When looking at the average calorie expenditures, each participant increased at the site where they attended a weight loss class they were enrolled in. Weaknesses of the study included not tracking calories consumed or having a reinforcement aspect. The simple procedure of setting goals and meeting weekly to share and discuss data effectively increased physical activity for participants. Curdy and Dallery tested an internet-based contingency management treatment using a changing criterion design to increase physical activity in 6 adults over 50 years old with a monetary reward, and then followed with an experiment without a monetary reward. The physical activity was tracked using a Fitbit, and progress was self-reported nightly in an activity log and a website where cumulative graphs of steps and the money they were earning was viewable, making the study simple. Participants accepted the treatment and it adhered with high numbers, and all increased their steps during the intervention that included the monetary reward. Interestingly, the second experiment of no monetary contingency yielded similar results, with 5 of the 6 participants increasing their steps in a much more cost-effective manner. Limitations included detecting whether or not participants were the actual people wearing the Fitbit, if weather was a factor, and that the devices like heart rate monitors that could specify types of activities would strengthen the intervention. Overall, researchers concluded that the data supports the efficacy of internet-based contingency management programs to increase walking with or without a monetary reward. Reporting data on a website and discussing it weekly with an interventionist, even without receiving a reward, was effective in increasing physical activity. Irving, Gillette, Seeley, McFarland, and Gao tested a 12-week internet intervention to help seniors stick to an exercise program using a randomized controlled trial. The intervention was based on theory of planned behavior, and 405 participants used the internet to pick activities, and they reported weekly for feedback and praise to change goals and to create solutions to problems holding them back. Overall, the study supported the use of the internet exercise program as the results were significant, with a 6-month follow-up producing medium effects. But researchers called for replication of studies to help support self-report measures. Planning to work out and change your behavior paired with positive reinforcement from others helped participants increase their physical activity. In another study, Nicholas, Goxstern, Beavers, Newman, Lang, and Rajetsky evaluated whether including a self-regulatory intervention on self-monitoring of physical activity and sedentary behavior to a weight loss intervention on 48 senior citizens. The exercise component of the study was walking, and participants were given accelerometers, set goals with an interventionist, and received cognitive behavioral counseling. Findings of the study revealed that SRI, the self-regulatory intervention aspect, aided individuals in losing more weight and spending more time exercising than those that did not receive it. Again, goal setting and discussing data improved physical activity for participants. Now, Wack, Crossland, and Miltenberger required 5 healthy participants to set short-term and long-term goals with feedback to test the effectiveness of increasing running distance. A Nike Sport Kit was used as a permanent product measure, increasing accuracy, unlike other studies where individuals could self-report at their leisure. Each individual effectively increased their running distance, with stating the goal and the delayed reinforcement of praise in weekly meetings possibly influencing goal accomplishment. With research supporting exercise interventions that are affordable, easy to manage, and easy to perform, WAC and colleagues' use of self-report, weekly meetings, goal setting, and feedback to increase physical activity seem to provide an effective way for individuals to increase physical activity. And that's the article that we replicated. Here's our methods.
In the participants, the research group was comprised of 5 participants ranging from 25 to 41 years old, both male and female participants. All participants were college students attending Ball State University and exhibited interest in becoming part of the study with the purpose of increasing total weekly walking distance. Participants did not have any conditions that would cause any health risks or concerns. The setting. The target behavior of walking occurred in a variety of settings depending on the accuracy of measurement tool. Recording data was acceptable in every private or public location that allowed for measurement devices to function accordingly. For example, walking a state park trail with a GPS tracker and app. Data recorded under conditions that temporarily rendered the tool inaccurate were deemed unacceptable. An example would be the use of a GPS on a treadmill measuring distance covered, which included the use of moving sidewalk or escalator, or intermittent tracking caused by loss of cellular connection. Measurement and design. At the initial meeting, each participant decided which device would be used to record their distance. Participant 1 utilized a Fitbit, Charge HR, and Map My Walk app. Participant 2 used a Fitbit and an accompanying app. Participant 3 and 4 used the iPhone and Map My Walk app. Participant 5 utilized a standard odometer and tracked progress through a website called rescuewalk.com. A walking episode was defined as a continuous movement of an individual's legs or feet in a forward progression at an accelerated cardiovascular pace, but not so rapid that conversation would be hindered. The experiment followed a changing criterion single subject design across all participants to assess the effects of goal setting and feedback on performance. In the interest of replicating consistent measurement made within the original study, inter-observer agreement was calculated for 100% of data collection across all participants. Confirmation of distance recorded per episode was obtained through observations of fellow participants' graphs in Map My Walk app. Percentage of agreement was calculated by dividing the number of agreements by the number of agreements plus disagreements, and then multiplied by 100. Calculations were made during the face-to-face Google Hangout meetings where participants simultaneously reviewed graphs as well as provided verbal feedback. Now we're going to do procedure.
For the procedures of the study, the distances per walking episode during baseline conditions were recorded using predetermined devices that each participant continued to utilize throughout the intervention phase while employing the following procedures. For baseline, participants used their devices to record activity but did not set any short or long-term goals while adhering to the original study's procedure. In step 1 of baseline, participants ensured their designated measurement devices were activated and had enough battery life to sustain the total duration of the episode prior, starting the measurement app device, the MapMyWalk app, or their Fitbits, and engaging in the target behavior. The MapMyWalk app directions included opening the app, pressing the Start Workout green button, and then following the prompts made by the app when stopping the walking episode. Fitbit activation is constant, and progress was tracked through review of graphs displayed in the app where the episodes are labeled as active minutes. The Nike and Run Club app and the MapMyWalk app are similar in operation, both allowing for periodic vocal feedback during the episode. In step 2 of baseline, target behavior was measured as continuous until such a point the participant ceased to continue for a period of more than 30 seconds. This provided ample time to remove the debris from, need to go back there. Participants were able to stop or pause their walking devices for no longer than 30 seconds, which provided ample time to remove stuff from paths if they were walking outside, or retie shoes, that sort of thing. Upon completion of an episode, participants recorded distance measured to the nearest tenth of a mile. In step 3 of baseline, this condition was continued until enough data were collected. And then that indicated a potential short-term goal, which was proposed by each participant in a group meeting. This data was discussed during regularly scheduled Tuesday evening meetings, at which point decisions were made regarding long-term goals as well. Intervention 1 for our study. So following baseline, each participant attended weekly group meetings to set short-term goals that were set at each weekly meeting, and then long-term goals, a distance the participant aimed to walk in a single walking episode by the conclusion of the study. Each participant was required to set a goal to walk at least 3 times per week, and to set a higher goal for the next day or week, he or she had to complete the criterion either at or above that level. If the participant did not meet those requirements, he or she could choose to remain at the same criterion level or lower the goal for next week. Weekly meetings via video conference lasted no longer than 20 minutes and were conducted to provide visual and descriptive performance feedback to the participant and to set short-term goals. The visual feedback consisted of a graph display of the daily progress delivered by the other members of the group. Each participant was asked to upload his or her walks onto MapMyWalk app before the weekly meeting. The MapMyWalk app has a cumulative record of distance walked for each participant and was able to be viewed on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. For intervention 2 for our study, this consisted of goal setting and feedback, but the short-term goals were based on weekly instead of daily walking distance. This modification did not require a minimum number of walks per week. However, the walking distance had to be at or above criterion for at least 2 weeks before setting a new goal. And the last week could not fall below criterion level. The long-term goal was the number of miles that each participant wanted to be walking on a weekly basis by the end of the study. The participants were informed of the intervention change and informed that their short-term goals will reflect their total distance over a 7-day period. Participants were provided the option at week 3, depending on when the procedure was approved, to stay at intervention 1 or move to intervention 2. Now we are going to start looking at our graphs.
The following is a depiction of data collected over the period of the intervention. Data points show baseline data, intervention 1 and intervention 2 data for participant Justin. Hello. During during baseline condition, the target behavior occurred naturally without expectation or goals set by the participant. The range of data during the outset of the initial condition was 1.0 to 1.4 with an average of 1.18 miles per session. Following baseline, intervention 1 condition required participants to set daily goal to achieve participants set goal for 1.5 miles per session, which was achieved with a range between 1.5 and 2.0, and an average of 1.82 miles per session. Intervention 2 required participants to set overall weekly goal. The long-term goal, which the participant wanted to be walking on a weekly basis by the end of the study, was determined to be 10 miles. Weekly goal was achieved by the 4th walk during the first week of Intervention 2 and the final walk during week 2. So the following is a graph that shows data depicted for baseline, Intervention 1, and Intervention 2 as well. Next is Diana with hers.
All right. Hi. I too have my graph. The note on that is during baseline condition, the target behavior occurred naturally without expectation or goals set by myself. The range of data during the outset of the initial condition was 1 to 1.2 miles, and I averaged roughly like a little over a mile per session. Following the baseline, my daily goal I set was just 1.2 miles per session, and that was achieved, and I walked about 1.4 to 2 miles as my range, and an average of 1.64 miles per session. In the second week of Intervention 1, my range was 0.8 to 1.6, with the average being 1.32. I then moved on to Intervention 2 because of my pregnancy. So I set a goal for 5 miles and for my long-term goal, and I met that as I accumulated it through the week, as it was a weekly goal. So.
Next is me, Jocelyn. During my baseline condition, my target behavior occurred naturally without expectation or goal set by myself. The range of my data during the outset of the initial condition was 0.4 miles to 0.5 miles, with an average of 0.45 miles per session. Following baseline, I went into Intervention 1. This condition required me to set a daily goal to achieve. So my first goal was for 0.6 miles per session in week 1 of intervention, which was not achieved. My range was 0.5 to 0.7 with an average of 0.55 miles per session. So in week 2 of Intervention 1, I lowered my goal, and I had a range of 0.6 to 0.8 with an average of 0.7 miles per session. So I met my goal of that week. My goal was for that week was 0.5, so I definitely met my goal there. And then when in week 3 of Intervention 1, my range was 0.7 to 0.8 with an average being 0.75 miles per session. My long-term goal was not determined because I did not move on to Intervention 2. I decided to stay in Intervention 1.
Next is me. I'm Ashley. During baseline condition, the target behavior occurred naturally without expectation or goals set by myself. The range of data during the onset of the initial condition was 1.0 to 1.1 with the average of 1.05 miles per session. Following baseline, Intervention 1 condition required me to set daily goals to achieve. I set my goal for 1 mile per session in the first week of Intervention 1, which was achieved with a range between 1.0 and 1.1, and my average was 1.05 miles per session. The long-term goal was 6 miles, and I achieved it in Intervention 2. Next is Randall.
Hello. Yes, I'll read the note under mine. It's during baseline condition, the target behavior occurred naturally without expectation or goals set by participant. The range of data during the outset of the initial condition was 0.75 to 1.55, with an average of 1.05 miles per session. Following baseline, intervention 1 condition required participants to set daily goal to achieve. Participants set goal for 1.5 miles per session in week 1 of intervention 1, which was achieved with a range of 0.98 to 2.86 and an average of 1.8 miles per session. A goal for 2 miles per session was set in week 2, which was achieved with a range between 1.96 to 3.09 and an average of 2.6 miles per session. The long-term goal, which the participant wanted to be walking on a weekly basis by the end of the study, was not determined as intervention 2 was not entered. So in my baseline, it did go up towards the end of the baseline. I achieved a maximum in session, it was session 3, 1.55 miles. Immediately following intervention 1 in that phase, during the 6th session, which was the second session in intervention 1, I did achieve 2.33 miles, which was almost 1 mile above the highest baseline. Then when I moved to session 11, I achieved 3 miles, which was double that of my highest baseline. And I ended in session 16 with 3.09 miles. The intervention, I did go down to 0.98 miles in session 7 because of a limitation. And I also dipped down again in session 16, but brought it back up. Intervention 1 was successful overall. Now I'm going to move to the results section. All participants reached points which exceeded their baseline numbers of miles walked. 4 out of 5 participants did not choose to progress to intervention level due to restrictions or limitations. Justin, Diana, and Ashley proceeded to intervention 2, weekly goal setting and feedback. Justin's miles walked steadily increased as interventions 1 and 2 were implemented. Justin's baseline high was 1.4 miles. By the end of the 3rd week of intervention 1, his miles had increased to 2 miles. When intervention number 2 was implemented, Justin's high increased to 4.5 in session 20 of the study. Both daily and weekly goal setting and feedback were effective in increasing miles walked per week. Both Jocelyn and Ashley saw increases in their mileage during the intervention stage. Ashley's baseline saw a high of 1.1 miles, and Jocelyn reached a baseline high of 1/2 a mile. Ashley was consistent in phase 1 with an average of 1.05 miles, also the baseline average, but increased substantially when she entered phase 2 of the treatment, 3.8 miles. That's almost 4 times the average baseline. Jocelyn started with an average that was consistent with her baseline stats of 1/2 a mile in phase 1, but ended phase 1 with an average of 0.8 miles in sessions 15 through 18. Ashley chose to stay with phase 1 treatment and not proceed to phase 2. The use of daily goal setting and feedback was effective for these 2 participants. Diana saw an initial increase in her mileage in phase 1 over her baseline. She averaged 1 mile for 4 out of 5 baseline sessions. When she switched to treatment phase 1, she reached a milestone of 2 miles. She entered phase 2 in session 15. Mileage was consistent with phase 1 at 1.5, 1.4, 1.5, and 0.8 miles for sessions 15, 16, and 17. Randy's baseline reached a high of 1.55 miles in session 4. In phase 1, Randall reached 2.33 miles 2 sessions after baseline, but then his mileage decreased in the next session due to physical limitations. Randall continually saw increases in mileage for the remainder of the treatment phase with a high of 3.09. And now on to discussion.
Prior to ending with the discussion, I wanted to go back and show Diana's graph. I had not held it up while she was speaking. Inter-observer agreement was calculated at 100% of data collected as a result of the IOA was collected by looking at the data collected at the graphs in the app. So confirmation was based on a permanent product based on the app display. So we used dummy data for the sake of the report to show that the calculations were confirmation of skill acquisition. Total mean percentage inter-observer agreement was calculated by finding the average overall total count IOA. The actual IOA was calculated to be 100% across all participants as a result of agreement based on confirmation of permanent product. And Table 6 depicts data fabricated for the purpose of confirmation of the skill of the acquisition. Confirmation of skill acquisition. The treatment of the daily goal setting and feedback was consistently successful for all of the participants. It was partially effective, for more so than others. Every participant saw an increase in average mileage over baseline when at least one of the treatments was introduced. This points to both treatment phases being a success. When implemented, both daily and weekly goal setting feedback increased average miles walked per week. Interventions that target exercise have become increasingly important in recent history, with research aiming to discover simple and effective ways to support individuals in moving towards a healthier lifestyle. Practitioners treating individuals who suffer from obesity or other chronic diseases should consider prescribing treatment that includes both short and long-term goals, with opportunities for individuals to receive consistent feedback from others on their progress. Findings of the replication et al. Findings of the replication were consistent with the original study and similar interventions, as individuals made reasonable gains in physical activity as a result of goal setting and feedback. Perhaps one of the most beneficial aspects of the replication was the ease of intervention, as the use of exercise equipment beyond tracking devices was not required. Additionally, the universal employment of the chosen technology allowed participants who reside across the continental U.S. to consistently and accurately track each other's progress. Aligning with cohorts and developing exercise groups and providing feedback is a potential means of providing service to a group of individuals online who require nothing more than a cell phone and a free app. However, a limitation of the study is that data may be unreliable, as permanent product evaluation of results may be invented by participants or completed by someone other than themselves. Other limitations include the study not including a contingent reinforcement aspect for positive gains. It relied solely on the feedback and possible automatic reinforcement of reaching goals, and also no documentation of weight, calorie expenditure, and intake, as diet often coincides with healthier lifestyles. In conclusion, the replication of the WAC study was informative, educational, and completed. Thank you, and have a good evening.